There's always going to be issues, right? And we don't want to hide that. We want to put it out there and make sure we really act as partners with our clients so we both can work towards that common goal and fixing whatever challenges might come our way. On the day-to-day operations, right? On the day when you're building things, you can get stuck in so many things around how you can do one thing or the other, and there's always a better solution, there's always a perfect solution, right? But at some point that doesn't really matter. Like, you have to do like good enough to get to the finish line and to get to that outcome.
Welcome to the CEOpeek show, where we uncover the essence of extraordinary leadership by interviewing CEOs with over 90% approval ratings on Glassdoor. Hello and welcome to the CEOpeek show, and I'm honored to be today with Felipe Cornejo. We're the CEO of Devsu, which has a 92% approval rate on Glassdoor. So, as you know, we invite only CEOs that have very high, above 90% approval rate on Glassdoor. So, hello, Felipe. Good to see you.
Hello, Dave. Thanks for having me here today.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this conversation. You know, we have kind of a check-in before, and we had an amazing conversation before, and yeah, and one of the things, so just if you can give us really like very, very quick, where are you located, where you're calling from, and it's just a little bit about the context, but not more than like 30 seconds.
Sure. So right now I'm in Quito, Ecuador. This is where I'm usually based. I spend a lot of time between here, Ecuador, and the States. The company I run, Devsu, we have offices in both Quito and Orlando, and our clients are we serve usually clients in both markets, the US market and the LATAM market. So hence I'm back and forth between these two places.
Yeah, you're living like two cultures at the same time.
Yes. Yes, and
Yeah.
it's part of. I think that's what makes it fun. I really like that. I really like being able to be being exposed to different cultures and different realities and points of view.
Yeah. So maybe it will be a good starting point to explore that culture differences, because you work North America and Latin America. And I remember in the previous conversation that we had, something that actually struck a chord is like that the differences and the social dynamics in Latin America, which is different. And I'm curious, how is that for you, and how do you actually overcome that breach in cultures between employees in the United States and Ecuador or other places in Latin America?
So for context, our company Devsu, we provide software development services to, like I said, to companies in the US. So there's a lot of work that our teams that are based in LATAM do with our clients' teams that are usually based in the States. So uh, I think there are when it comes to aligning the culture of our team to our clients' culture, I've noticed that one thing that it's important is to pay attention to details, right? Because on one end, like Latin America culture has a lot of influence by the American culture, but of the U.S. culture. But where you can find big discrepancies are in the details of, for example, um, uh, talking about the problems, right? Like this comes to mind at the beginning when I just started the company. I remember sometimes some of the teams in LATAM will hide like things that were not going that well. Will hide the problems, whereas our clients and partners in the US, they needed to be updated on what was really going on, right? So we were really intentional about this, about how we like transmit that, the fact that, it's okay to have problems in a project. There's always going to be issues, right? And we don't want to hide that. We want to put it out there and make sure we really act as partners with our clients, so we both can work towards that common goal, and fixing whatever challenges might come our way to, to have a successful project. I think that's an example. So, again, you have to pay attention to these nuances and cannot and tackle them, right? Because these little things can make a big difference in how you deliver the service, and most importantly, in the final outcome of the project.
So can you give an example of an issue that you have, kind of a horseshit moment in that was based on culture, and how did you resolve that, and how did you bring it into a positive resolution, or negative too?
Right, right. Well, I remember this particular story. We were working with a company that they were organizing a fishing tournament. So we were tasked with building the dashboards for the tournament, right? So everything was going well. A few weeks before the tournament, we the client told us that this tournament was gonna be shown live on ESPN. There's this, like, I think it was ESPN 3 or 4, like one of those ESPN channels that are specific to different sports, but still it was a big deal. It was going to be live on cable television, right? So that was great. And then, but I was taking vacation a week before vacations a week before the this tournament. So basically a week before the D-Day, right? So I want to make sure that everything was going smoothly, that everything was going to be fine. And I asked the team, right, like, make sure to do the performance testing and do test loads on the website. So if there's a lot of traffic, then everything's smooth. So lo and behold, the team forgot to do that, and they realized that they didn't do that, but it was too late. And by the time the tournament happened, we started having issues with these dashboards, with this scoring dashboard. And my phone is ringing, like I'm in Italy. It's the middle of the night. I'm supposed to be relaxing, but the last thing I'm doing is it's relaxing. But all of this is to say that was one of the an example. Back then, this was early in the early days of the company, that instead of me knowing what was going on, that the team at the beginning, they were trying to, like, hiding it and trying to fixing it and scrambling to make it work. But then they can, like, I talked to them, I understood the issue, I had to explain what was going on to the client, and hopefully we were able to manage it. But this could have been prevented if we wouldn't had a better communication, better internal communication, and frankly, better communication from our end to the client. So I think that was one of those moments uh, that I realized, okay, this is, like, this cannot happen again. This is an issue that we need to make sure that the team is aware, that we need to give them that, I guess, that psychological safety, so they feel that they can count with us, with management, when they run into issues, instead of hiding things and trying to fixing those for themselves. Sometimes that could work, right? But in this case, it didn't work.
Yeah, there's like those moments that things don't work, and you need to. And I have a sense that you have some empathy and calmness that you brought to the situation. Maybe it's the Italian food and the wine there.
Well, yeah. Well, I think I have an engineering background as well, so I know, like, I was definitely like empathetic to the team, right? I know things can go wrong, and even if you plan, something things don't go off in as planned, right? I can always understand that, right? But the issue was that the 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 communication didn't happen the way it was supposed to happen.
Yeah, so I'm curious, how do you measure your impact of your leadership? What is your personal metric beyond the traditional business metrics? How do you know that you are making improvement as a leader or just step back? What is that for you? How do you know for yourself?
Right. So I think my starting point is always, and going back to the word that you use, right? Like I start with empathy. I like to put myself in the shoes of others, not only the my team's shoes, but also the client's shoes, right? Um, so uh, I start from there, and then if I can make progress towards our common goal. Like I start from there. I identify what's our common goal, right? Because there are many stakeholders. There's usually many stakeholders where you start a venture, when you start a project. So within those stakeholders, I want to make sure that I'm aligned. I have a clear goal, and I I I kind of like the proxy metric to my leadership success. Is the success of the project of the end goal, right? Uh, Making sure that we're achieving the outcomes that we're set out to achieve. So that's how I measure myself. I try to keep myself. Uh, uh, that accountable for things. I try to keep myself accountable, and if I can keep myself accountable for things, then I can keep other people accountable as well.
Can you share a time when your leadership values were tested deeply and you had to make a difficult, unpopular decision?
I mean, I think there's always I don't necessarily equate unpopular decision with like leadership value, because I think part of my leadership values is the fact that I have to make unpopular decisions quite often, right? So I'm okay with that. Uh, I think where I feel I fail, if the times I fail as a leader is the times that I other people don't understand why I am making that decision, whether for them it's unfair or not, right? Because for me, it's important that people see me as an objective person, right? So if they truly see you as someone objective, they are gonna understand why you're making the decisions that you're making, and that I'm not coming from a place that if it's hurting them is because I want to hurt them, right? But there's a higher reason, a bigger reason of why we're taking this decision. So that's kind of my framework. uh I wanna the way I measure myself by being objective, and making the decisions not based like on gut feelings, but based on the data, and and the decision should be made based on what really is going to move forward the outcome, right? Like the project or whatever the end goal is. So if I'm making a decision that's going to move things forward, then I'm okay, and I'm hoping that the rest of the team can see that.
I'm curious, since you're also the founder, and I think that in this season, uh, most of the interviews were not founders. There's some difference. When I work with these founder CEOs, there is some kind of an attachment to, because their company it's like a baby, and there's a sense
Right.
of different sense of ownership, not just in terms of ownership of the company, but ownership, what you mentioned, the accountability, because there
Right.
is more kind of personal investment. There's more to lose. Employees can find a new job.
Hmm.
For you, it's a life project. So I'm curious how it helps, but also how it gets in the way, and how can you detach yourself from sometimes from that us as like the parent of the company. I mean, like there's some sense of attachment that comes with parenthood or parenting.
Right. I think, yeah, like you said, right? Like I think there's good and bad in these situations, right? Like obviously, like I think that the positive aspects of this is that you really hold yourself accountable, and you have that sense of real ownership, right? Like you have a skin in the game, basically. But then the challenges that it can also you can also become emotional, right, in making certain decisions, and the way that I try to manage that, or not to fall into that into that problem, or issue, is that uh, my goal is to build a an organization that has a strong foundation, and that it's a real, um, sorry, what's the word I'm looking for here? Something that's going to transcend over the years. Uh, so that it's not just me or what I think, but it's an independent entity, and that it's not depending upon myself. So that helps me detach a little bit, right? So it's sorry, the word I was looking for, it's I'm trying to build an institution here, right? So a strong institution, uh, it's gonna become its own thing. It's not gonna depend on people, right? It's gonna, like, if it's a strong institution, like it will have its own culture, its own set of values. So it doesn't matter if I'm here today or if I'm not here tomorrow, right? Leading the organization. So whenever I'm keep reminding myself that what we're building here is a lasting institution, that that is not really dependent on specific people, and that obviously that includes me.
So let's, I think that when we spoke before about values, and I'm curious about what the one value that actually was tested, because I believe that values become values only when you pay the price for it. Otherwise, it's just a word that you can put on your website, right? But what is a value for you that really was tested, and what was the impact of that test, and what was difficult about that?
I mean, there's a bunch of things that come to mind, but let me uh, think real quick of a specific example. I think one one value that often, and this might not be as as grandiose, or as extreme, but something like, we have a value in the company that's continuous learning, and continuous improvement, right? And that's, it sounds really nice, but I truly believe on that, and that's part of what makes us better, and achieve a competitive advantage over our competition. But it's a lot easier said than done, right? Because these values, it's usually it has a tension with efficiency, right? Because sometimes you have all of these initiatives, you have all of these initiatives to achieve this objective, and to embrace that value and execute on that value, which is continuous learning and improvement. So you say, okay, yes, or it sounds easy to say, yeah, our team should always be like training, we should always be learning, and providing them with all the
Mm.
tools that they need to achieve this. But reality is also that you're always going to have limited budgets, right? You're always going to have limited time. They're only working 8 hours a day. So what percentage of that time is like training or like things that they're learning versus like working for the clients and achieving the outcomes? So, and it's a tension that you have to manage, right? But I think that the way we have set it up allow us to do both, and it's not always perfect, but we're always putting our money and our time where our mouth is. But that the I see this is an example of this tension that always happens. Okay, we're saying we want to continue, we want to learn more, but at the same time we might have to work more for the client, so there's less time to learn, right?
How do you role model it yourself,
Right. So the way the way I do that, it's also showing the team that, like for example, in this particular case, that I don't need to be like, if I want to be better at something, I don't necessarily need to be waiting for the formal training. It's something that I'm going to take and do it, although I have to do all these other things, right? And then that might require me to learning this through the weekend or at night, but I will share that with the team, so hopefully they can see that. And I'm also leading by example, but that's number one. But also providing the tools and saying, okay, maybe we're not going to be as efficient in terms of the numbers, but we're investing here, and knowing that and really believing that it's an investment and not an expense, right? So I can have like one or two more points on the bottom line, right? But we rather like use that to help the team go through their training and invest in that area. So I think it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of leading by example, by also uh, by action, right? And putting budget or time with or mouths.
There talked about training. There's so many leadership books every day, probably like hundreds of new leadership books. I have my own contribution to this barrage of books. And so what is like one leadership truth that everyone believes that that's the way to do things, that you think that it's a myth and you do the opposite? Any leadership truth that everyone is
Geez,
doing this one?
I have a few
Yeah.
right. Like I have a few contrarian views, right? And one of those, it's I think this notion around like micromanaging, right? Like most people will tell you that micromanaging it's bad, but I don't necessarily think that. I think micromanaging, it's more of a it's a result of something that's happening, right? So I use it as a thermo, like as I use it to measure like if we're going on the right track or the wrong track, because sometimes you need to micromanage it, and actually you help people learn and get better by micromanaging, right? Yeah, you don't want to be doing it all the time, but then otherwise, I've seen instances that for that leaders, for the sake of like not micromanaging and have everyone happy, they let things fall off the rails. So um, again, I think that it's a tool, right? And it's an outcome of a situation. So I use that as to assess whether what we need to do with that situation. So if if we're micromanaging too much, it means that something needs to change. So what needs to change? Maybe that person needs more training, that person it's in the wrong place, so on and so forth, right? But and then we want to fix the root cause in order for it to happen less. But we just don't want to stop doing it just for the sake of not doing it.
Yeah, so you look at it like intervention, like if you micromanage all the time, it's like a chronic micromanagement, then it becomes a problem. But then if acute, I see it as an intervention for learning. So I micromanage, but it's actually for the sake of learning. I'm doing is an intervention to save time, to if we know the answer, why should we let people struggle with that? So some people go to the other extreme of giving so much full autonomy, and then they just spend more time on fixing the problems that comes from this autonomy while they actually knew in advance what they need to be done. So yeah, I get it. So that's a really any other interesting contrarians.
Yeah, let me think of of another one. Um, well, I think it's a similar one, right? Like the fact that you do have to delegate, right? But it again, it really depends uh, on the stage that you're at, and I think it is not only like so. It's a process, right? Like you need to delegate tasks, then responsibilities, but you also need to delegate accountability, right? And I think that's the hardest part. And I actually think it's probably one of the challenges that I certainly have faced myself when a team starts to grow. Um, so I think there's usually like on these common like uh, uh, on this common wisdom that's out there, right? Like don't micromanage. You have to always be delegating. I mean, there's truth to that, but there's more nuance, right? There's a lot more nuance to it, and there's different ways of how to better implement it.
All the CEOs I interview, everybody shows here because it's a podcast, confident and but I coach CEOs, quite a lot of them, and there is like actually a very interesting theme that come when I coach CEOs, which is like kind of not completely an imposter syndrome, but some kind of insecurity. And I'm curious, what is that insecurity that you have as a CEO? What is the one thing that you suck at?
I mean, I think I'm not great at many things. I'm not great at many things, but I try to keep better. But I don't know if it's insecurity, but or like more self-aware on. I'm always I have these things with like decision making, right? I'm always trying to find ways or like frameworks or like mental models to come up with the best decision, and sometimes that can lead me to a bit of analysis paralysis. So I tend to 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 struggle. I don't know if struggle is the right word, but I tend to be more self-aware about that. That's one for sure, and I'm always thinking of, okay, how can I improve my decision making process? Because leadership and the role that I'm in, like it's mostly just making small and big decisions, right? Through your day and through the year, you're probably gonna make 2 to 3 like big decisions in a year, and then hundreds or thousands or small decisions through the year, right? So I just want to be prepared for both, right? And also I think it's kind of an art to it to know like what are those 2 or 3 decisions that really matter versus the other ones that it's either way it's gonna be fine, right? So I'm always thinking about that, and I don't know if self-doubting is the way to is the right word, but I'm I'm uh, I'm thinking about it after the fact. So if I make the decision, then I will come back to it and think about, okay, did I make this the right decision? What was the process of getting to that place and making that decision? And that's something that I will love to be better at, but I'm also like always trying to improve.
Yeah. So you have like kind of a reflective practice that you assess your own decisions and you look at it post-mortem to see how you'll get better in the future, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think I've come from an agile background, and I don't know how familiar you are with agile development, but there's this practice of like doing a retro, right, where it's just basically a
Mm.
postmortem. So, and I do believe that's a really helpful exercise and practice in all that in not only like for projects, but in different aspects of your life.
Mm. You know, when my early career was in Israel, and I remember when I was like starting my career, we used to have like annual parties and we did skits. We did like comedies about our managers, including the CEO. We really made fun of them. And kind of like the, how do you call it? The presidents in the US, the president's correspondence dinner.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yep,
but
yeah.
they,
It's like a
yeah, but
roast, like yeah,
nobody, you know,
this.
I work here in the United States for now 9 years and coach, yeah, I hear coach executives, and nobody ever told me that they did it with the CEOs here in the States. So if your team made like a fun
Hmm.
show about you, how do they make fun of you? What they will say? What they will? What is this story that will tell that or make a, yeah, okay.
I think they will do again something about around values around like continuous improvement because I'm always talking about that. So I'm pretty sure like they will make fun of that. I think they will. Let me think. I mean, there's some things that I like. I keep repeating. I keep repeating to them. So hopefully, like they'll rest. So that's one of them. Um, I think they will also uh, probably.
What they will say in the show? What they will say in the show?
But maybe I mean they will make fun of the fact that I'm sometimes I'm writing these long like thoughtful pieces, right? Or that or that I try to bring that I'm too reflective because I'm also doing that with the team,
Mm.
right? That's I have that for good and for worse. I think it's net positive. But yeah, I tend to kind of like reflect on things, so I'm pretty sure they will touch on that as well. Yeah, but I mean, and I'm pretty sure there's other things that that I'm not aware of that they will be bringing to the table and roasting me on.
Yeah. So if they will give you one word nickname for your personality, what will it be?
I think they will also say that I'm a little bit of a downer because I tend to question things a lot, right? So I'm not your typical like, and that's because and that's by design, right? Like I think I always say that I'm a optimist pragmatist in the sense that I'm always looking at the glass half full and half empty depending on the situation, right? But I tend to be really critical with ourselves, with myself, and with our team. So I think they will probably like if they have to give me a nickname, might be like Debbie Downer or something
Mm.
like that, because I try to like when everyone is like cheering, I want to say, hey, hold on, we can still do better, right? And when everyone is like down, I say, hey, we can get over this, right? So that's why I was saying like I'm that way by design because I want to either push the brakes or push the pedal.
Mm. Yeah. When did you feel most misunderstood as a CEO by your team
Hmm.
or the rest of the organization? Oh, they like when I was a CEO, it
Yeah,
was like so many moments like they just don't get me. Like, what is that for you?
I think it's when maybe when I'm trying to oversimplify things and just show them that that what really matters is the outcome, because on the day-to-day operations, right, on the day when you're building things, you can get stuck in so many things around like how you can do one thing or the other, and there's always a better solution. There's always a perfect solution, right? But at some point that doesn't really matter. Like you have to do like good enough to get to the
Mm.
finish line and to get to that outcome. So sometimes I think that's where there might not get me, or there's a disconnect, right? Or where I think, like, dreaming, it's good, and having these big ideals, but sometimes I have to pull people back in, because okay, if we want to get there, then first we have to do these 10 other things, right? And we have to focus on the next one, not on the one that's uh 50 steps ahead, right? So I think that's another moment that I might be you know somewhat misunderstood.
Yes, so as we coming to close that interview, I'm curious. You're young. You have years still to grow into, and I'm curious. What is your growth edge? What is the gap that you see between your aspired leader within you and who you are? Give an example. When I was a CEO, I really weighed more on the vision and strategy and the business result and to the employee and the deep connection. And yeah, and that's what led me to do the work that I'm doing today, to overcome that gap that I have, that was I was not balanced between business and people. And I'm curious, what
Right.
is that for you? You see is the growth edge where you are intentionally going to grow as a leader.
So I think there are a few aspects, right? I need to continue to grow in terms of like uh the vision and strategy, because that's just in the environment we live now, it just changes so much, right? So you have to be updated on what's going on, what's happening on your industry, so you can have the right vision, because have the right vision. And I think that's the secret, right? Like, because we all can have a vision of something, right? But what matters is that we have the right vision, and that we have we can all have a strategy, and what matters is that we have the right strategy. So I and I think that also ties to what I was talking about earlier about like decision making. So uh, my I guess my gap, and the gap that I will continue to have and that I will continue to work on, it's probably around decision making. So whatever vision I have, it's the right vision, right? And I think the hard part, it's being able to tie that right vision to the right execution. That's the art, right? That's where like uh successful leaders uh differentiate from others, and get ahead. So um I keep every day, I work to being able to successfully execute on that path that I'm currently in, and hopefully I made a few good calls, and I'm in the right path, right? But if I realize I'm not in the right path, I also want to be able to have the capacity to switch
Mm.
lanes.
And that this is approach that we know for many years. Set up vision, create a strategy for that vision, and execute on this strategy, right? And
Hmm.
and I actually started to challenge that in the last 1.5 year,
Interesting.
because actually the complexity that AI brings to technology into the workplace, It's just the
Mm-hmm.
acceleration, the rate of change is so much faster than in technology, because I work for tech companies for many years, and nothing is like that. It's just like, it's unbelievable how fast. And how do you said the right vision? How in the world anybody knows what is the right vision? You see, like, Zuckerberg come the right vision for
Right.
metaverse, and then fire like thousands
Right.
of people. So,
Yep.
and he has a lot of resources that can help him to make decision about a right vision,
Yep.
right? And maybe in the complexity that we have today is actually the other way around. There is a the beautiful model called the Kinevan model, developed by Dave Snowden, that it's actually, in a complex world, you execute and develop the vision and the strategy as you execute, and change the execution, and change. It's a very agile kind of mindset, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Right. 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 Right.
but
Yep.
you
Yeah.
act because you don't have enough data to create the vision. It's just food for thought for the
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
listener, that kind of, that maybe the existing challenge that we have in the world call for a different mindset about how we lead organization in terms of vision, strategy, execution. Maybe it's going to be flip. AI flips it all. What are your thoughts?
I think you need to get comfortable with change, right? Like, and that's to my point earlier. I think that's what I said. Like being able to switch lanes, right? If
Yeah.
you realize and those and what you're saying, it is true that before we had maybe longer time horizons. Now everything goes so fast that time horizon is a lot smaller. So we just need to be able to continuously iterate and change as we go. I agree with that 100%, and I think that's part of like the actually the background I have, and the background and part of the culture at Devsu is actually a culture where our goal is to keep trying things and iterate on those. Sometimes we're more successful in doing that than other times, but that's at least that's our intention, right? And that's something that we uh, I would say that that's also part of our culture, and that we transmit that to the teams. Now, having said that, I think the other skill that's super useful nowadays, and that it'll become more important, is it's separating signal from noise, right? And I think to do that, you really need to have a more of a mindset of a critical mindset, and always try to think like not criticizing, but critical thinking, right? Like making sure that you're asking questions all the time. So that's I think that combined to um, a state of execution that you're comfortable, like iterating and testing and trying new things. It's probably the right way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I hear the phrase of we need to adapt to change when in the 90s, right? Even before the internet came in. It's just the rate of change is so fast nowadays, and also the separate signal from noise. It's, I think, separating signal, noise, and space too. I don't think it's only signal and noise. It's signal, noise, and the space between them, because sometimes you just see the signals and you see the noise, but there's also that space that bring that innovation into the space between the signal and the noise. And but probably we need another 1 hour just to discuss this one.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, flipping.
But that's pretty interesting. What do you mean by the space though? Like between like, do you mean that there might like the space between the signal and noise can be like big, so it's easy to separate, and then it can be like really
Yeah,
narrow.
it's
So
if you think about the structure of an atom, or even from the quantum
mhm,
perspective, it's all space. Actually, we are all space. So if you think about it
right.
metaphorically, right?
Hmm.
So when I look, you mentioned earlier about the trade-off between time to produce outcomes to your customers and time to invest in training and development and so on.
Right.
So I look at when I join team meetings and leadership team meetings, they're busy, busy, busy with so many agendas and projects, and there's no space to stop and like,
Hmm.
ah, what is emerging in the space between the signal and the noise? And the agenda represent the signal, and the priority represent the separation from the noise and the signal, but sometimes there is not enough time to space. It's like a scientist, a physics scientist that will say, avoid the space in the
Hmm.
atom. I look only in the electron and the, well, everything is space, right? Even in the,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, Filippo, it was such a fascinating conversation. I really had a lot of fun actually of that conversation with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Same here, Dave.
yeah,
Thank
to
you.
be on the show today. Any last word that you want to tell
Yeah.
the audience?
No, it's thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and it's been super fun to do
Yeah,
this.
thank you very much. And thank you for watching the show, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next episode.